What's up, party people? How's it going? Only a very few of you will understand the humor behind this pin I'm wearing. I went a little bit crazy a few months ago, and I started buying all sorts of weird Nordstrom shit on eBay. And one of them was a bunch of pins. I also have right here this is a Nordstrom 15-year employee pin that I paid like $15 for, and I have no idea why. There was a reason why, but I went a little bit crazy. So anyway, I thought I'd have some fun and put this on for you. How's everybody doing? Another shit day in the markets. Let's get right to it. SWTX. Daniel Singer asks the right question. Is it accurate to say the SWTX situation gets scary the longer it takes, but the EV of longing is unchanged? Because it being scary would explain the bad price action. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not so sure I would agree with bad price action. The stock is $49.50, and it was in the low 50s for a lot of the last 6 weeks, last 5 weeks. It's been 5 weeks to yesterday when the Reuters article came out. Yes, it also went as high as 60 or 65, no doubt. But it's kind of just hanging out here. And the April straddles are still $17. And there's no reason to think that it's pricing in an overwhelmingly likely chance that this deal breaks. Now, that being said, the option market is definitely saying there is not a 50% chance it works. I've been buying as recently as today, April 50-65 spreads for around $5.80. Obviously, you have to take price into question, what the deal might be priced at some point if it gets done. But assuming it's a $66 deal, which is a big assumption, it could be a $60 deal. That's pricing in something like a 40% chance of a deal happening by April OpEx. What do I think is happening with SWTX? This is the point I want to drill forward with. I want you to be drilled down with. Sounds right. Sounds okay. I have not pivoted on my thesis with SWTX in the last 10 days. Okay. Obviously, I thought Merck was going to acquire them when I put the position on in February, when Merck confirmed they're in advanced talks with SWTX. Though I did hypothesize very early on that the reason for the Reuters leak was to flush out other possible bidders, that it wasn't a fully shot process, and that somebody else definitely could come in. I've done a lot of videos on SWTX, but there's a lot to me that points to that being the case. Just to recap, first of all, there was a PDUFA coming up at the end of February, which is a very odd time to run a full process for a company in December or January before that PDUFA. Second of all, there were 10B sales, a lot of them. And I don't believe if you were going to run a full process, I think they would have been able to cancel those 10B plans ahead of running a full process, especially if the CEO and the chairman kind of run the company, and they could have canceled it a month before they formally launched the process. No one can get in their head what they're thinking. I would think you could not cancel those 10B plans if you're approached by Merck and Merck says, I'll pay you $55 or $60 a share. You can't then go to the general counsel and say, is it okay if I cancel my timed 10B plans? And what was my last reason for why I thought, oh, there's a reason for the Reuters leak. These leaks don't just happen because journalists are savvy. There were 3 different sources that decided to leak that Merck was in advanced talks. And the most logical reason was to flush out whether or not there was whether or not there's any other interested buyers in the company, and that they were okay with the Merck price, right? And they used it kind of as a stalking horse kind of thing. I said 10 days ago that I thought there was virtually a 0% chance Merck KGaA is the buyer. I'm here to tell you that this is not the prevailing opinion in the ARB community. Okay. Most of the people I speak to think that Merck is still the likely buyer if there is a buyer at all. Okay. There are a few, not a lot, but there are a few people that have my view based on the Merck conference call last week, that Merck is very unlikely to be the buyer. But that is not the prevailing view. So if you have that view that it's not Merck and it's taking longer than you think it should take, 5 weeks, there's nothing bad that's happened with SWTX, okay? If a new company came in to do due diligence and negotiate and had a preliminary price that SWTX liked, 5 weeks is just not a long time, right? It could take 8 weeks, 7 weeks, 10 weeks from the initial communications. However, if you think it's Merck, you really have no explanation for why it hasn't been signed yet. Today, it's being floated around the internet that they're waiting for the EMA to approve one of their drugs at the end of March. I call nonsense to this theory, okay? First of all, it's almost certainly going to be approved at the end of March. But this company, SWTX, would not have canceled their Q4 conference call 3.5 weeks ago if they knew there wouldn't be a deal till April, knowing that the EMA wasn't going to approve it until the end of March. They would have went along as business as usual. Just said they can't comment on the deal, on the Merck statement. And they'll talk about their company like they would talk about their company. They also would have had an approval call, right? After the drug was approved. So I strongly do not believe that that was one of the milestones or critical conditions that Merck was referring to, the EMA approval. But this is what I think, in my mind, is the most interesting thing about this idea. Usually, every day that goes by, you have lower odds the next day that something's going to happen, right? If we were at 25% chance there was going to be a deal signed yesterday, some people now think on Tuesday, today, that's now down to a 15% chance. And then Wednesday, it's down to a 5% chance until it gets to 0%, right? 6 months from now. I think this curve looks very different here, okay? The way I see it is every day that goes by in the near term, the next 2 to 4 weeks, you have a better chance the next day that you're going to hear that you've signed this deal, or it breaks, but really that they're going to sign the deal, okay? So the curve to me looks something like it increases, and then once you get to a certain date, maybe it's mid-April, then it starts declining, and then it approaches 0 as you get to, let's say, mid-May. And I wouldn't be able to come up with any logical reason why a deal wouldn't be done 3 months after an interloper came in. And that seems way too long, 3 months, right? To me, this would be like a 6 to 8 week kind of thing, which puts you squarely at the end of this week to the middle of April. When I bought my March call spreads, I thought Merck was going to be the buyer, right? I put them almost all on that first week in February, or the first week of this process, which was 5 weeks ago. And that seemed like plenty of time to get an advanced deal done with the advanced buyer. Clearly, it was wrong. And the good news is that in the last 4 weeks, all I've bought was April. I hadn't been buying March. Now, I've taken huge losses in March. And if this doesn't happen the next 3 days, I'll still make money if this happens by the end of April, by April OpEx, but I'll make much less because of the huge losses I took in March. I'm still cautiously optimistic this could happen in the next 3 days, or we get an article. There's just no rhyme or reason why this deal could break now, given I don't think it's Merck. If it was Merck, I think it breaks very close to, if not before, that earnings call with Merck on that Thursday. I'm not going to go back into why I'm so convinced it's not Merck. I did that in previous YouTubes. It's not just that they reiterated the language about caring about life sciences mostly, and also that they will focus on in-licensing pharmaceutical products. They went above and beyond to basically say, we're not going to spend billions of dollars on a pharmaceutical buyout. And they didn't have to do that. They could have said that they're price disciplined. They could have said that, as we noted, we've told them, publicly we were in advanced talks. We can't comment on that. But by the definition, if we were in advanced talks at one point, we like SpringWorks. Just a fact. Or we liked it then. There was a point in time where we liked SpringWorks. But we can't comment beyond that. They didn't do any of that. So, look, if it ends up being Merck, that's great. Just I hope it's at least $66, right? You're not going to see me. I'll come on here and mea culpa. Because I have to admit, you would have to admit to me that my take on this is rather controversial, right? I'm saying this is going to get sold. I have a high confidence it's going to get sold, and it's not going to get sold to the only bidder that has been publicly confirmed is interested in buying them and was advanced. Because to be clear, if this was a fully shot process, there is no other buyer. Merck was the winner. Okay. So I'm betting on a lot of things having to happen in order to get me to the finish line. And I'm still really enthused by it happening. My odds are 85% chance this deal still happens, 15% chance it doesn't. I have a hard time seeing how we get to today with it not happening. The market's a disaster still, though yesterday and Friday were good. So offsets it a little bit. XBI is kind of hanging in there. And we're going to hear sooner than later. I know it just seems so gut wrenching having to wait day after day for news here. I never thought it would have taken 5 weeks, but it is what it is. So, yeah, I'll either have huge egg on my face, which I've had many times before. The first time I ever started doing YouTubes was BMYRT, and that effectively zeroed, except for the fact that we have this lawsuit we're going to wait 10 more years for. So, there's I made plenty of mistakes on here, and I'll continue to make mistakes. This job is not about batting 1,000. It's about having a great slugging percentage to where you make more money than you lose. And you try to do it in a risk-adjusted manner that keeps you making more money than you lose indefinitely. And that's it. That's the whole game. So anyway, enough of that rant. Let's talk. Everything else is just going to be pretty short pickups, but let's talk Sage Therapeutics. I've discussed this in the past. I still really like it. One thing I just noticed today for the first time was that in the past 3 years, maybe even longer, Sage presented at Cowen and at Stifel in March, and they did not go this year. And I find that really encouraging because my biggest risk here is that this entrenched management team and this entrenched board, they like their salaries, and they are going to put on a sham process, and they are going to not do anything. And kind of the guidebook for doing that, if you are a shitty management team, is you keep going to the conferences and you talk up your business, and you try to show investors that you're not going anywhere. For them to actually pull themselves from those conferences really speaks to me that they know that they're done, right? The writing's on the wall that they are going to have to sell to Biogen. Biogen was at a conference today, the one that Sage usually is at, the Stifel, and they wouldn't comment on any of it except to say what was the exact language they said? They said, the only thing they can say about Sage is they are very excited about Zurzuvae option that offers women with PPD. That's it. So I continue to think that Sage works. It sells for over $10 a share. In fact, I have a bet with a friend that another podcast man you might know, that he thinks it'll be a 950 or less, and I think it'll be more than 950. He's basically looking at unaffected percentages off of where it was trading, before the 13D, and I'm looking at how cheap it is, and I don't think it can be I don't think you can look at unaffected here, right? You have to look at the cash. You have to look at a multiple of peak revenues for Zurzuvae, and Biogen can steal this at $12 or $13. Ultimately, I think it'll sell for, I don't know, $10.50 to $12.50 range, something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than $12.50, or maybe a CVR, some bullshit sales CVR to bridge the gap. I mean, that would work pretty well. SGRY, that's bounced a lot. Still really, really like it. You can go look at my last YouTube for that. I would expect in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we get a deal there. I have a hard time seeing it take longer. I expect it to be north of 27, south of 30. It's trading 24.40. Again, I go into detail about why I like that in the last YouTube. KROS. KROS is presenting phase 1 data in the next 12 days. I'm not expecting any real fireworks there. My biggest concern with KROS is the lack of catalyst over the next 2 years. Once they get out that phase 1 data, unless it shows real efficacy somehow, which it probably won't, you have to wait for them to kill the HAE drug in Q2. Hopefully they do. And then you just kind of have to wait. You have to hope that something happens from a corporate development standpoint. They do buyback, they do a tender. It's a waiting game with KROS. But in this market with this tape, there's no better place to have your money than I think these cash-rich biotechs. ARVN, the more time I spend on it, the more I like it. I think that is more interesting than KROS right now, simply because you have events, a lot of events over the next 3 months that should send that much higher if it plays out the way I expect it to play out, which is all you need to happen is Pfizer to signal they are going ahead with commercialization and or the phase 1 combo trials. And if they do that, the stock's worth multiples of what it's trading at. But beyond that, I think you'll have ARVN restructure their Pfizer deal. And I went into great detail about that in my last YouTube, so I'm not going to do it again. But the more I spend on it, the more I like it. And it's a big position of mine. It's like my biggest positions are SWTX, SGRY, ARVN, BBIO, KROS, and Sage. Those are my top positions. And then I follow those up with PTGX and WOW. Let's talk WOW. I added a lot of WOW. Unfortunately, it's up a lot today. I think a well-known blogger wrote it up or did an update on it, which is why it's up so much today. The WOW story is pretty well known. About 10 minutes ago, a 40% shareholder put in a bid to partner with DigitalBridge to take it private at $4.80. The stock traded above $4.80 for many, many months. It's been 10 full months. They just reported earnings last week and nothing, no update. Still, process is ongoing. So to me, there's really only 2 ways this can end. The 40% holder and DigitalBridge are going to buy it. They'll pay no less than $5.50 for it. It'll trade at a spread because it'll take time to close. But, the stock in the low 4s, mid 4s just seems very attractive to me. But because it's taken 10 months, there's a decent chance that there's going to be a third-party buyer, a strategic buyer, maybe another private equity firm, most likely a strategic buyer that just takes the whole thing out at a nice price. So I added to WOW. PTGX, obviously I got a win there. That was awesome. I love that stock. I'm holding that thing indefinitely. 2 unbelievable royalty-based assets they have partnered, extraordinarily de-risked, both of them, both going to be approved. And you get the pipeline for free, basically. And there's no need for cash needs ever. So I really, really like PTGX. IMVT. So I'm adding to IMVT because I'm a gambler. They will report very important data any day now. It's before the end of March. And, the trial is very controversial. There's a lot of sell-side guys. I think it's going to fail. or not show real differentiation between the current standard of care. And I don't know, I'm 80% confident that the trial will be a success. But I would say most of my confidence is probably coming from piggybacking smarter people than I am when it comes to this stuff. In this tape, though, you need a really good trial to have it work. So, that's just basically a positive risk-adjusted gamble for me. And that's like a 7% position. I'm adding to it today. But again, I fully expect that to go up or down $5, $6, $7. And I'll, take my lump of coal if I have to with it. Anything else? BBIO, the CFO left. Doesn't matter. You don't like to see it, but it doesn't matter at all. MX, there was some insider buying. Doesn't matter. They bought, the equivalent of 1/4 of their board salary and stock comp. Not enough to matter. And it also means that they're probably not close to any kind of transaction with Display, though I don't think they're going to sell Display for much money, if anything at all. SEAT, SEAT, which is Vivid tickets. So this one's interesting. So I use a lot of ticket websites, and I do not like Vivid tickets. I like StubHub and SeatGeek more than those two. And on December 30th, it was rumored that they were doing a sale process, and stock went up to like 450, 460, 470 kind of thing. And they reported earnings last week, and they disappointed, and the stock is now 270, and there's some leverage. I think this is a really interesting name here. And the reason why I like it is because there's two major shareholders that each own like 35, 36% of the company. And I think that Vivid Seats is not long for the public markets. So I don't know whether or not they are going to successfully sell to a third party at a lower price now that they reset 2025 earnings. And I don't know whether or not these majority holders decide to squeeze it out and take it private. But I have a hard time believing nothing happens. So that was like a 1% position for me going into last week, and now it's like a 5% position. Your risk with with Vivid and TripAdvisor is we might be heading into a recession. And those are two stocks that you don't want to own in a recession, right? Discretionary spending. So, I'm more cautious on TripAdvisor now, given how bearish I am on the world and the economy. But I still own it. And I wouldn't want to be too big in things like Vivid Seats. But I do think that people are missing the opportunity here, given we know that they're sellers. They ran a process. The process isn't that old. It was December 30th when the article came out. And it's reasonable to believe that they had to reset the expectations last week to get this across the finish line, either a minority squeeze out or a sale to a third party. And because there's leverage here, it's not a ton of leverage. I think you can easily get a stock price in the 4s. The question is whether or not that those majority holders would sell at 450. But if they're not sellers at 450, maybe they're buyers and they take it private. Are you still following Cure? Yeah, I have like a 4% position in Cure for no really good reason whatsoever. I was waiting to go long-term capital on it. I go long-term capital on it in April. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't try to spend too much it's a lot of brain damage for me. So I don't spend too much time on it, but I do still own a 4% position in Cure. Sheep is holding most of his IMVT through Roy. Do you like this as well? It's fine. It's a way to play it. I would guess that Roy goes up or down proportionate to whatever IMVT goes up and down. I don't think it's a free ride owning Roy versus IMVT. I prefer to play it through IMVT. It's to me, it's just a pure way to play the catalyst. But you have to size it smaller because it's going to go up or down more. Thoughts on WoW comments during call? That's normal. They shouldn't say anything. You know, they shouldn't talk about it during the conference call. But the WoW process has to come to an end, like very soon. It's ridiculous, right? And the fact that they didn't kill it last week, that's the natural time to kill it. I would think that it means there's something that's going to happen in the near term. You know, I thought that would target hospitality in August, and they didn't kill it, and then they killed it in September. This is not target hospitality. Okay? The situations really are nothing alike. So I'm not terribly worried that I'm about to get rug pulled again in a similar manner. All right. I think we covered everything, right, guys? And gals, if there's any gals out there. Market's terrible. Oh, there will be an SWTX emergency Las Vegas trip if this deal happens by Friday. If it happens by Friday and the price is at least 65. Emergency Vegas trip. We're all going to Las Vegas. You're all going to be paying for me in Las Vegas. I'm not paying for you. It's not actually, the Vegas curse has been lifted, Paul, because I had a Vegas trip plan for JWN if it got bought out for between 23 and 25, and it got bought out, or 23 and 26, and it got bought out for 24.50, basically, right where I needed it to get bought out at. So the Vegas curse has been lifted. I'm allowed to discuss Vegas with ideas, and we will be going to Vegas if the price is right. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Take care. Remember to subscribe and like. I have a theory that you all don't share my YouTubes with friends and family because you want to save all of my great ideas for yourself. It's selfish. Send it to your cousins, send it to your aunts, your uncles, your sisters and your brothers, and your pets. Take care. Bye.